All right. Well, here's my thinking, right?
Hmm.
Episode 1, pretty pretty good episode, like solid A-tier episode. Does a decent job at showing off the characters, but not as good of a pilot as introducing all the characters.
Yeah. The only real issue that I have with the episode is for being a first episode, it's kind of forgettable that Vaggie and the crew are like making a trailer. Like it doesn't even
Mhm.
come to be any plot points in the thing. Like the only thing that it introduces is that Alistair cannot be looked at by a camera, otherwise it goes weird. Um, Other than that, I really love the parts where Charlie is like trying to talk to Heaven. Like that was pretty cool.
I feel
Keep going.
like the time they spent making on the pilot should have been spent fleshing out Adam and Charlie a bit more because I feel like that scene was a bit too quick. I feel
Keep going.
like the time they spent making on the pilot should have been spent fleshing out Adam and Charlie a bit more because I feel like that scene was a bit too quick, in my personal opinion at least.
I think it
I
was
think
all
it's
right.
fine because Charlie is the main character, so she gets all the screen time, and
Hmm.
then Adam is the villain of the season, so he also gets enough screen time. The two songs that are in the episode are fairly decent. A Happy Day in Hell is like a B tier. It's okay.
Yeah, it's all right. It's definitely better than the one in the pilot that they sung during the news broadcast, which is what it most
Hmm.
reminds me of. But I definitely think that it's better.
Happy Day in Hell did good enough to make it onto my Spotify playlist, so
Hmm.
it did that much right.
And Hell is Forever is one of the ones that I'll listen on YouTube while I'm working on things.
Yeah, because that song goes crazy. Hell is Forever goes hard.
Hell is
S tier
Forever is
song.
awesome. This is a I like this one.
I
The
think that's a banger episode.
mhm. We get introduced to Serpentius. And we're also introduced to the V's for it, which is like a big part, and I imagine it'll be even bigger in season two.
Hmm.
Um, we get the song "Stayed Gone," which is one of my favorites from the show, just because it's just awesome. Um, it's like one of the best parts about it isn't that Fox feels all high and mighty in it, up until like Alistair joins, and as soon as Alistair joins, it goes like all downhill. And like the ending where Alistair like mocks Vox for what he said at the beginning of the song is just perfect.
Yes, that does work really well.
Hmm. And then we also see Serpentius joining the crew. Um,
Hmm.
it's pretty all right. It sets up that Angel just feels like he's kind of second fiddle to Serpentius.
Yeah, and then it kind of just sets up Sir Pentious to be a big character within season 1,
Hmm. I like it. It's pretty all right.
especially after the trash song at the end.
Yeah, it
Starts
starts
with
with
Sorry
sorry
is not
is
good.
yeah.
F tier song.
It's all right. I think that there's one that's worse than it, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
And then Stayed Gone's like solid A tier.
Yeah, I love Stayed Gone. That's another one that I'll just listen to.
Song's a straight up banger. What else even happens? There's not a whole lot
There's
that
not a whole lot.
happens.
We do get a lot of insight into the bees, and how they're just kind of vibing, at
Hmm.
least for season one.
Yeah,
Um,
getting introduced to the V's and then Sir Pentious sets up 4 great characters.
this one's pretty all right, but I feel like it could have done better. We
Yeah,
start.
I wish it did more with the Overlords in the episode.
Mhm. Um, we see Alistair mingling with his other overlords, and I find it really funny that they really don't care that he's there. Carmella's just like, no, not really. Anyways, and you can see that it just like completely gets under Alistair's nerves.
Hmm.
Um, and we also get introduction to Rosie. I wish we could have seen more of Rosie in that. I was so excited for Rosie.
I wish we got more of all the Overlords because they all look super cool.
Hmm.
But only Alistair and Carmine and Rosie later on actually do anything.
Hmm. And yeah, in that one we have Respectless, which is pretty alright. I'd say another
I
A
think
tier.
it's a good song. I agree, another A tier, but
I think
what is
lower
it?
down than the other ones, but
What is the other song called? It's like Do
whatever
It
it
For You?
takes.
Whatever It Takes. That song sucks.
Yeah, and it. My main grab at it is that they have Zestial sing, and Zestial, who is singing, who has like talks in Old English, so says like
Hmm.
thou and therefore and all that. It doesn't sound like he
It
should be
doesn't fit.
singing.
The whole trust fall thing was stupid.
Yeah.
Sending him off to war is funny.
Hmm. Oh,
But other
okay.
than
I
that,
I will appreciate that one scene. Throw me, throw me. And
but
then
overall, I think episode 3 is a very mid episode.
I think it might be the worst of them all. I can't think of one that is worse
That's
than
true.
episode three.
It's not like the worst of them all in a bad way. It's just the worst since all the other episodes are really good. Is
Yeah. Overall, kind of forgettable.
there any
Other
more closing thoughts on episode 3?
No, not really. Just kind of mid overall.
very okay episode. It's an episode I can live without, but I understand the purpose of it.
Mhm.
This episode was definitely the worst of the initial release because the A plot being Alistair's plot and then the B plot being the
The
actual
trust
hotel
stuff.
plot. The B plot sucked,
Oh, the
and
B
then the
plot
A
was
plot's pretty
awful.
good,
Oh, but then we get to episode 4.
which is the best of the initial release.
Yeah, this was the one where I
And
was like, okay, I can see myself watching this. Like up until now, the story has kind of been like really like lighthearted and whimsical almost. Like you're talking about stuff, but you're not actually the tone isn't that bad. But then once you get to this episode, the tone just like breaks, and suddenly we're reminded like, yeah, this is hell.
mhm. I think it shows Valentino as a very not necessarily strong force, but a um, big plot point for Charlie's plan of rehabilitating people
Mhm.
because I believe that it'll probably be revealed later or at least figured out later. I believe that Angel Dust's contract to Valentino prevents Angel Dust from being rehabilitated,
Yeah.
especially since throughout season 1 Angel Dust improves so much but nothing ever happens. So I
Mhm.
believe it's because the contract will keep him bound to hell.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we see Poison, which is like there's a bunch of songs that are like you can see them more in like theaters where it's like basically two people holding a conversation but also singing at the same time. Poison
Hmm.
definitely feels much more like an actual music video, but I definitely don't think that it's bad. Like,
It's not a bad thing at all.
mhm, like I can appreciate it being in the show. Um, and then we get to Husk because Husk chases off Angel Dust from the hotel because he points out how like self-destructive he's being. And then we get
Oh, yes.
like all these like points and uh like Husk being an overlord at one point is really cool. So Husk is, Husk is really cool in this episode. I really like how they took his character, and I definitely think that they chose the right voice actor for like Husk. Like all of the other ones, I was like, I kind of like the original, maybe a bit better, but for Husk, I definitely think that it was an
Yeah,
improvement.
I think the new Husk voice actor is super good, and it fits the song he gets because it's a very smooth voice, a smooth, deep voice. And I also really like that for his design, his weapons are playing cards and dice, which fits a lot with his gambling aesthetic that they've given the character.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, and it's just so cool whenever he's fighting like it.
Yeah, I think Husk is super cool in this episode. I like that he actually gets an episode and isn't just a bartender.
Mhm. It's also said that he's an overlord, which is really interesting.
Yes, it is said that he was once an overlord, but lost it to Alistair.
Mhm. Which is super interesting in my opinion. Like
Hmm.
I did not see that in the like pilot. I did not see that coming, but it just kind of makes sense.
I do find it super interesting because it kind of makes me think that because I don't know how many overlords Alistair, because Alistair never kills an overlord, from what I understand. He kind of just traps them somewhere,
Mhm,
that kind of thing. Because it's never said that an overlord dies, because then they would just respawn
mhm.
based on the rules of the show. But I find it interesting because it makes me think that Alistair could just summon any of the previous overlords when need be.
No,
It also
completely.
makes me think that Nifty might also be an overlord, as like these two characters have like a really unique dynamic to Alistair.
Mhm. I wonder what if it is that Nifty is an overlord. I wonder what like she would be the overlord of, or if she just like threatened enough people.
Yeah, because a lot of them have a similar like theme going on. Like the dinosaur chick is the overlord of like several dinosaur and raptor like demons.
Mhm,
And then Rosie is the like cannibal overlord of Cannibal Town. So it kind of has a common theme with the overlord itself.
mhm. And you can definitely see it where Husk could be like super powerful because gambling is like a really big thing in real life, and I imagine it would be all the more present in hell.
Yeah.
One second.
Last thing we haven't mentioned is the song between Husk and Angel. I think that song goes crazy. I think it's the best song in the first
I
season.
I think it's the second best song in season 1.
I think you guys are wrong, actually. Overall, I think season 4 or episode 1, season 1, episode 4. There we go. I think this is the best of the initial drop, and I really like the characters that they chose for this episode to focus on. I really like that Husk gets some screen time and that Angel gets a lot of improvement in this episode, and that there's a somewhat bond formed during this episode.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also like the dynamic between Angel Dust and Charlie at the beginning of the episode as well.
Hmm.
I I feel like how like Charlie gets mad when Valentino attacks Angel Dust is also really interesting,
Yeah, it
as it
shows that
shows
he really
like
does care. Sorry, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
you're good. It shows how Charlie cares about everyone in the hotel, as well as like how important it is to her.
But yeah,
Okay.
we just wrapped up the 4th episode, so we can go on to the 5th episode of Deadbeat Dad.
Let's talk about the first 4 episodes though, because it's
Oh,
like
fine. We can talk about the initial drop.
so I definitely think that of these 4, it has some of the most like boring episodes, and it kind of makes sense, just because it's like ramping up for the end of the series or end of the season. So
Mhm.
it definitely makes sense why you place your most boring episodes like in this like area.
Yeah.
Um, but overall, it was pretty good. Like the first and fourth episodes are definitely like some of my favorites.
Yeah, I think all of the episodes except episode 3 are pretty good.
Mhm.
If I had to rank them, it'd probably be episode 4 is the best, and then it would either be 1, 2, 3 after that or 2, 1, 3 after.
I think 1, 2, 3 because I like the Radio Killed the Video Star, but Overture is also just pretty good.
Mhm.
I agree with Henry. I also think it should be 1, 2, 3 as well. I feel like episode 2 just doesn't really have a lot of like importance to the entire storyline.
Mhm.
As even though like the 3Vs were introduced in episode 2, they don't really do anything the whole season. They weren't the main antagonists of the season as well. So I feel like episode 1 has a greater importance as Adam is the main antagonist in season 1.
Yeah.
Mhm.